First and foremost, yes, we're way late to talking about Inside. Inside was out over 4 years before our channel even began. But if you can recall, there is a saying, better late than never. And I'm thrilled to be late to this. So, with that out the way, let's talk about Inside. Inside is a 2D-ish puzzle platformer developed by Playdead, the Danish studio that first shot to notoriety with their previous game, Limbo. If you listen to our podcast, you will know that I played Limbo to completion. I wore my heart on my sleeve with that game. I thought it was overrated. I still do actually, and I didn't understand how anyone could love or even like that game, at least initially. But as time passed, I would think of that game now and then. The stark black and white imagery, the attention to detail to bring out the lore of the world. And soon I did gain an appreciation for my time with that game. So as my curiosity got the best of me, and I finally decided to subject myself to play that sequel, I readied myself to be triggered. And instead, I found myself intrigued, invested, and delighted. Though Inside builds upon Limbo's foundation, it seems to do so by stripping itself down to some bare essentials and executing on those concepts flawlessly. Several things made Inside such a memorable and fantastic experience for me, but there are 3 elements in particular that I'd like to highlight. The first, and probably the most impactful to me, sound. Referencing back to statements I've made on the podcast, Thoughts and Players, make sure you like, listen, and subscribe, sound and music don't rank high on the list of what makes a great game for me, at least in general. I mean, as long as it's serviceable and doesn't bring too much attention to itself in a bad way, I'm generally satisfied with it. But Inside, well, Inside's approach to sound design and music is world class. The use of silence, ambient noise, and sound effects puts you as a player in a state of unease. Though there are plenty of signs and interactions that let you know you're kinda up Bleep's Creek in this game, how Playdead uses sound from even the start screen sets the tone for what you can expect from the game. Here's a sample. The sound and music in this game go beyond being a conventional tool of video game building and meld into the very fabric of the experience itself. Now, of course, one could say that all music does that. I suppose from a technical standpoint, that's true, but few do it as well as Inside. Okay, on to highlight number 2, the art style. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that made my experience with Limbo memorable was the art style. And this remains true with Inside, and to even a greater extent. Muted tones, soft ever-present shadows, a seemingly impenetrable fog that paints expansive, empty factories and towering buildings in a dim mist. It is intentionally minimalistic, from the faceless boy you control to the various levels you traverse and puzzles you solve. But even with this minimalist approach, the world is full of details and hints at deeper lore. This is where the story is told. I mean, is there a narrative? Yes, and many are split on its meaning and the conclusion you, the player, eventually arrive at. But this is a game where I found the most meaning and gratification in the journey as opposed to the destination. And if I were to redo my top 5 list of favorite art styles in video games, I think Inside cracks the list. The final highlight of this game is the gameplay itself, but if I had to be more specific, I would say the animation that comprises that gameplay. See, Inside is a platformer, and therefore movement and momentum is vitally important to the game, which means movement is vitally important to the player. It must feel good, if that makes sense. The thing that Inside does so well is that not only does the animation make your character feel good to control, but animation plays another vital role in how your character, as well as other characters in the world, express themselves. As I mentioned, your character is a faceless boy. In fact, everyone in the world is faceless. It is the way the characters move that tells you if they're good or bad, tired, scared, or indifferent. As you navigate the faceless boy through damp forests, flooded corridors, sunken rooms, and towering smokestacks, you can see and feel the changes taking hold of him. Some games are made with much larger budgets, teams, and resources than Playdead, yet fail to understand how something even as subtle yet deliberate as this can further immerse a player and make them invested in their character. I could feel fear for the boy because I could see and feel the panic in his walk. I could hear the desperation in his breath and the quiet stillness of the forest. I think the brilliance of Inside is that you feel and experience so many things without all the grandiose extras that many game developers think they need to add to their games to make them stick. Fortunately, Playdead plays by a very different set of rules, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next.